Okay, so I recorded a video yesterday and I wasn't feeling 100% about it, and I watched it back a couple times and it wasn't sitting right with me, so I wanted to lean into that feeling and redo the video. I feel like the video didn't quite hit the nail that I was wanting it to on the head, and it kind of ended up being a bit of a ranty video, and that's not what I intended. So I've taken it down and I want to create a better video that achieves what I want it to achieve. And luckily only like 7 people saw the video, so we're starting again. So this is: how can I support my non-binary, trans friends? Coming from a non-binary pal. That's me. I'm non-binary. So the first thing that I want to talk about, raise awareness about, is the coupling of trans and non-binary. So people can identify as just non-binary, people can identify as trans non-binary, and people can identify as trans. I actually wasn't aware, because I'm very much new in this non-binary journey. It's been about 6 months since I've had this realization, and some people have had years of realizing that they're non-binary. So I'm really new to this, and I wasn't actually aware of the coupling of trans non-binary until I came across Culinary. And if you haven't watched their videos yet, please go check them out. As a non-binary person who is just figuring out their journey, coming across Culinary when I did was so instrumentally helpful, and I just want to give a little shout out to them, because they are the most incredible people. They're so open and transparent and honest, and as a fellow non-binary, it's been so nice to kind of like get to know them through their videos and their Discord and their Patreon. And so if you want to help them and support them, go check them out. Trans non-binary is a thing. I personally haven't got to that point yet. I'm still figuring out if I identify as non-binary or trans non-binary. And that is very much a journey that I'm on right now. I need to figure that out for myself. It just comes from being aware and sitting with myself and really honouring and being true to what my mind and what my body is telling me. Non-binary, trans non-binary, and trans are all identities. They're all valid identities. Every single person who is watching this, your gender is valid, your identity is valid, your journey is valid. Don't let society shit on you. Whatever you're going through, however you present, as long as you're staying true to who you are and it feels comfortable within yourself, then you're doing the right thing. And please continue to be you, because I love you for who you are. There is something so important about surrounding yourself, just in life in general, whatever you identify as, surrounding yourself with people that will appreciate and love you for who you are is so important. And if you're not at that point, I really hope that you're able to find friends that can love you and cherish you as you deserve to be loved and cherished. And I hope that you are able to love and cherish them as you deserve to love and cherish them, and as they deserve to be loved and cherished. Friendships are important. So, moving on. We've tackled the whole trans non-binary and non-binary thing, so let's just get into the video. The first thing that you can do to help and support and love and cherish your non-binary, trans non-binary or trans friends is by using their correct pronouns and being inclusive and non-judgmental of all of the pronouns as well. because we do have lots of different pronouns in this day and age. And whilst it's so great that people are being encouraged to honour the pronouns and having the pronouns they, them like I do, it's becoming so much easier to function in day-to-day life with those pronouns. It's still not perfect, and society is still society, but I don't think, if the world hasn't been so inclusive as it is being right now, I don't think I would have been able to be on my non-binary journey. So inclusivity and pronouns are really important, and don't judge anyone if they introduce themselves with a pronoun that you haven't heard before. Whether they're making it up or not, they are suggesting that that is the pronoun they want to be referred to as. If it confuses you, just make sure that you try to understand where it's coming from. And the biggest way that you can support, like, you don't necessarily have to understand in order to support someone, but if you try to understand, that's all that matters. And if it's a pronoun that you haven't heard before, then you can very easily ask, you know, if you're messaging them, you'll be like, oh, how do I pronounce that? Or ask them where it came from, if they know the history of it, or do your own research about it. But really understanding why someone identifies as the way that they do, it really helps. And if you're unable to understand, you can still support them. You don't have to understand or agree with it in order to support someone. Although I would say, if you can't understand and if you can't agree with it, then like I totally get that everyone has their own lives and everyone has their own thoughts and feelings and opinions on things. And you don't have to understand in order to support. You really don't. It would be lovely if everyone could understand why non-binary is a thing, and, you know, why I identify as they, them, and why somebody else identifies as A or Z. The non-binary alternative to Mr. and Mrs. is mix. And that's been really helpful for me to figure out and to understand as well, because I wasn't aware until like about a month or two ago that existed. So yeah, mix is a thing. Some people would pronounce it mix. I prefer mux just because it's MX and it just sounds, I don't know. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But yeah, pronouns are really important, and you don't have to understand to support, but it would be great if you could try to understand. But again, if it's not something that you can understand, you can still support them. So it says tea, it's actually got coffee in it. Rebel! Dead names. I personally don't have this problem because I have only really recently started to appreciate how unique and wonderful my name is. But if someone turns around to you and says, actually, I don't identify with, or I don't agree with the name that I was given at birth because it just doesn't feel like who I am anymore, please can you refer to me as Alex or Charlie or Sean, or a different name to the one that they were given at birth. It's really important that you try. So I haven't had my everyday name insulted before, but I have had an experience where I wanted to change my name to a stage name because, a little bit of a backstory, I was running away from who I was. I hated everyone, I hated myself, I was not in a good place mentally, and I was really angry at the world, really angry with everyone around me, and I did not want to be associated with my surname. And so I wanted to change my my name as an actor. I wanted to change it to Sapphire Dawn. Dawn's my middle name, I liked the ring of it, I just thought it was really poetic as well, because sapphire is obviously a blue stone and dawn is blue sky, so you know, it's poetic. That's how I viewed it anyway. But 2 family members turned around to me and said that it sounded like a porn name, and one of my tutors at ISA turned around to me and said, I can't take you seriously if you're going to use that name professionally. So it's not the same as someone using a dead name. I'm fully aware of that, but it did hurt, and it did make me feel really small. And especially because I had never, I guess I was innocent enough to not associate Sapphire Dawn being a porn name, because to me it was poetic and it was beautiful and it was my first and middle name. And so having people turn around to me and just completely belittle it and insult it, it did hurt. And so I can't even imagine how amplified that pain is when somebody turns around and uses a dead name. It's just, and like, I'm not saying that you have to be perfect. If someone has asked you to use a different name, then like, it's okay to make mistakes, because we're all human. Like, nobody is perfect, so don't try to be perfect. But it's really frustrating, because it's the people that don't even try, people that won't even make the effort to refer to you as your chosen name. And if you go through this, if you've been through this, if you're currently going through this, I am so incredibly sorry that you have people around you that cannot support you in the way that you ask them to. And just know that you are not alone. And there are people out here who will love and who will support you for who you are. And like I say, if you need that, my DMs are always open. I know what it's like to be in a really horrible place, in a really dark place. And I was in a really, really dark place for a very long time. And I'm coming out of it, and life has colour again, and I'm feeling good. I found the right meds, and and I'm generally in a good space. So if you feel like you don't have anyone else that you can lean on, then please come and find me, and I will do my best to be there for you. But I will be honest with you. And if I'm mentally not in a place where I can support you, then I will have to say, look, I'm really sorry that you're going through this. I can't offer what you're needing right now. I'll get back to you when I can, or feel free to just run, and then when I'm in a place I can reply, because that is what it is to be a good friend. You need to look after yourself, and you need to value your own mental health and your own well-being in order to be a good friend to others. If you're not a good friend to yourself, then in my opinion, it's really hard to be a good friend to other people, because I've only just started being a good friend to myself after 21 years of being my own worst enemy. So I went on a bit of a tangent there. But yeah, dead names, just don't use them. And if you do, please acknowledge it, apologize for it, correct yourself, and move on. If someone misgenders me and uses the incorrect pronoun, I much prefer it if they catch themselves, apologize for it, correct themselves, and then we can move on. Like, I don't hold it against you if you call me a she every once in a while, because yeah, you will slip up, like, you're human. I was a she for 21 years of my life. But if you are constantly calling me she or girl or lady or woman, and you don't actively try to change that, then it would make me feel unseen and unheard and unappreciated, and I am not prepared to put myself back in that box. Like, as I say, I'm just coming out of a really dark place mentally, and I'm doing well, and part of the reason why I was so unwell is because I was unseen and unheard, and unappreciated. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is your lack of reciprocation of the respect that they deserve, it can be triggering without you even knowing or understanding why. So if someone says, please can you call me Alex, and you continue to call them Chloe, then what are you, like, what? I can't get my head around it. And I think that's just because I'm coming from a place of understanding, and I get that not everyone understands it. But I think it's really important to remember that if someone asks you to call them by a different name, it's respectful and it's the right thing to do is to honour that. And if you can't, if you're struggling with it, then be open and honest. Just be like, hey, I'm really sorry. I know that you want to be called Alex, and I know I keep calling you Chloe. I am trying, it's just taking time. But then you also have to back that up with the fact that you are trying. You have to, like, words are great and words are wonderful, but action also needs to meet the words. And I've only really fully appreciated that in the last couple months, that your actions really should back up your words. And if your actions don't back up your words, then don't offer the words in which you need the actions to back them up, because that's not going to get anyone anywhere. That was a really long rant about something that I don't even have to deal with, so I'm really sorry. If I missed the mark or anything, please comment and let me know. But I'm part of this Facebook group, and there are so many posts about family and friends using dead names, and it just really annoys me, and so I just wanted to say something about it. Another thing that you can do is limit your use of binary language. So binary language is, as it says on the tin, language that refers to the binary. So guys, gals, ladies, gentlemen, it can be triggering to some people. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is just be aware that language that you don't find triggering may be triggering for other people, especially like around gender or sexuality or mental health or mental illness. There is language out there that can be triggering to people without even understanding or knowing why. For example, I'm going to be really, really vulnerable right now and share a trigger. So I have a massive trigger for me is the Beatles. And I love the Beatles, and I really, really wish that they weren't triggering to me. And I'm not going to share any details on it. I'm just sharing the fact that the Beatles are triggering to me. And it annoys me, and I'm aware of that. I'm glad that I'm aware that they're a trigger. And I'm working on trying to limit the amount that it triggers me, because even just one song, one Beatles song, or a song that sounds like it was made in the time of the Beatles, and I get flashbacks and I go into a panic attack, and it's not fun. And that's just by music. And it's music that encompasses everyday life as well. So basically, there are things out there that will be triggering to some people, and not everyone will understand why. But if someone shares with you the fact that something is triggering, please, please honour that. Please try really hard. It's not your place to police what you do in order to limit the triggering of other people. Like, I know that it's a lot to ask, and a lot of it will come down from the person who is being triggered by it. Like, they need to make sure that they work on whatever it is that has caused the trigger, so that it will lessen the impact of the trigger later on in life. But if someone shares a trigger with you and say it is binary language, like, oh, actually, I find when you say guys, I find it really triggering because obviously I was a man assigned at birth and I've transitioned to a female and it just makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, if someone says that to you, then thank them for being honest and open and for trusting you with that knowledge, and please try to help them and reduce the amount that they're triggered in your presence. It's not up to you, but if you can try and help it, then they're sharing that with you for a reason, and I would really hope that you honor it and you are supportive and you try your best to be appreciative and be inclusive and let them know that you care about them by changing a word that you use because they find it triggering. And if you're ever unsure as well, you just need to ask. So, for example, I'm kind of guilty of using binary language, but I use it in a generic way. So I will say man or dude in like a generic way, not a gendered way. But if I'm talking to someone who I know is transgender or who I know is non-binary, then I will ask them. I'll just be like, hey, by the way, I use dude or man in a generic sense. Is that okay with you, or would you prefer that I didn't? It's always better to ask rather than to figure out in the midst of discomfort that actually they don't like it. And as I say, it's not necessarily up to you to police your own language, but if you can do that one little thing to help your non-binary, trans, non-binary or trans friends, and it is literally just removing one word from the vocabulary that you use around them, it can be so helpful in them feeling accepted and acknowledged and seen. And as a minority, like the minority that non-binary, trans, non-binary and transgender is, it's really important to be accepted and seen and valued for who you are, and that would just really help. And so that kind of moves us into research. Google is amazing, and also Ecosia is amazing. Ecosia is, or Ecosia, I don't really know. It's one of those two. They basically plant a tree with every search that you do, and I would really recommend it. Well, I've got something weird going on here. I'm gonna leave it there. Yeah, Ecosia is really good, so if you care about the environment, I'd recommend that. But yeah, there are so many resources and guides online, and it's really great. And YouTube as well. Obviously, I've mentioned Cole and Ari. They are my favourite non-binary lesbian couple, and if you haven't checked them out yet, I would really, really encourage you to. With research, if you're unsure, just ask. As always, a conversation is so much better than an awkward encounter. No matter how difficult the conversation is. If you actively bring up your friend's gender identity, if they are comfortable with it and if you are comfortable with it, in order to understand how to better support them as a friend or a partner or a loved one, then you are a good friend or partner or loved one. Because you are showing that you appreciate them for who you are, and while you may not understand what they're going through, you want to be there to help and support them. And so if you bring it up and you're like, hey, I noticed that you're non-binary, or hey, I know you're non-binary, I know you're trans non-binary, I know you're trans. It's not something that I've gone through, but I'm really interested in hearing about your experiences and knowing what helps you, what doesn't help you, how I can support you, what you find annoying, what you find triggering. Like if you try to understand that as a friend or family or loved one, then that will only make your relationship stronger. And if anyone turns around and says, how dare you bring up my gender identity, like I don't think anyone would. And if I'm wrong, please correct me, because I'm obviously just speaking about my experiences and what I would like as a friend, family, partner, loved one. This is just what I would like. But I can't imagine that there are that many people that would get offended with people trying to understand their gender identity. So, yeah. Another thing that you can do is be aware of privilege. And privilege is something that is really important. It's very, very in our lives at the moment. You know, it's very day to day. There's a lot on privilege, and there's a lot more awareness on privilege. And so as a cis man or cis woman, you do have more privilege, because that is what is considered in society as normal, being cis man or a cis woman. Even more so if you're a straight cis man or a straight cis woman. And I don't really want to talk that much about privilege, because I think everyone is kind of more aware of it now. But just being aware of your privilege and knowing that you might not understand what they're going through, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't try to understand. And even if you don't understand, it doesn't mean that you can't create a safe space for your friend or family member or loved one to be who they are and to be true to who they are, because nothing is worse than trying to fit yourself into a box just to please the people around you. And that's a whole nother story in itself. Don't try to fit yourself into a box to please the people around you. Having people please for 21 years of my life, it's not bloody worth it. Figure out who you are, stay true to who you are, and realize that not everyone is going to agree with you and not everyone is going to like you. And when you realize that, life gets so much better. It's taken me 21 years of my life and I'm still working on not people pleasing and making sure that I'm being true to who I am, but it's a journey, and I really hope that if you are in the midst of a people pleasing cycle, that you manage to break it soon and you manage to figure out that actually you're not on this earth to please every single person around you. And I hope that you're able to live the life that you want to, and to fulfill your dreams and your hopes and your desires, and surround yourself with supportive people who can help you achieve that. And I think that's a really good thing to end on. So thank you for watching. And I just want to say to every member of the LGBTQIA+ community that is watching, thank you for being here. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you, and I cannot wait for a super inclusive world for all of us, and I really hope that we see that in our lifetimes. And thank you for watching, and I love you all, every single human that is watching this. I love you, and I hope that someone tells you that you look nice today, or that you have good energy, or that they value you as a friend today, because you deserve to hear it. Thanks for watching.